All right, let's jump right into today's explainer because we are tackling a topic that impacts, well, pretty much every single one of us. If you've ever sat in a classroom, tried to learn a totally new skill, or just stared down a really daunting report card, this is for you. We're exploring the architecture of curiosity, mastery beyond grades. And the goal here is to completely shift our perspective on what academic success actually means and how true skill acquisition works out there in the real world. So are bad grades really a problem? I mean, most of us are completely conditioned to instinctively scream, yes, absolutely. But consider a student named Roshan for a second. He just came home and handed his mama a report card featuring a D and an E. A total nightmare scenario, right? But his mama's reaction completely flips the script. She actually believes this isn't a failure at all, but potentially the very first entirely necessary step toward true, unshakable mastery. Let's dive right into section 1, Beyond the Bad Grade. You can practically hear the immediate panic in Rushan's voice. He says, "Mama, I got some real bad grades. See this as a D and an E." I mean, he is literally defining his entire intellectual worth in this exact moment by just 2 letters. We've all been there, haven't we? That sinking feeling when a piece of paper basically tells you that you're falling behind. Rushan even follows this up by asking, "Am I bad in these subjects?" He's totally internalizing the grade as a personality trait. But here's the game changer. Instead of scolding him, Mama has this incredibly calming, just super grounded reaction. She tells him simply, grades are indicative, effort matters more. She separates the ultimate outcome from this one immediate snapshot. She explains that the grade just indicates where you are right now, not where you're going to end up if you keep applying effort. She literally tells him, I know that you tried hard. Over time, you will start doing well. Moving on to section 2, replication versus real curiosity. Okay, so instead of hyper-focusing on the syllabus, Mama asks this brilliant Socratic question. She asks, do these subjects create curiosity in you, a desire to know more? Notice she isn't asking if he memorized the textbook. She's asking if his brain is actually engaged. And Roshan eagerly admits that, yeah, he actively watches scientific videos online about these very same subjects. The kid has the curiosity for sure. The testing method just isn't capturing it at all. And this brings us to a really crucial contrast. Getting grades, well, that's often just an exercise in temporary memory, just replicating what is in the book or the syllabus. But true learning, now that is understanding the subject and its intricate details through deep, genuine personal interest. Mama makes this amazing point that once you actually understand a subject because you enjoy it, the grades follow as a natural byproduct. You don't chase the grade, you chase the curiosity, and eventually the grade catches up to you. Let's look at section 3, the swimming coach philosophy. At this point, Roshan realizes Mama sounds exactly like his swimming coach, and the methodology here is beautifully simple. First, love the feeling of floating on the water. Enjoy it. Be cautious, sure, but never fear. Because if you follow these steps, you will figure out how to swim. Just think about how profound that is for a student. If you approach science or history without that constant fear of drowning in bad grades, and instead just enjoy floating in new information, the mechanics of learning just naturally fall into place. Mama validates this completely. She tells Roshan to adopt this exact swimming approach to everything in life. Because this is true expertise, a long-term orientation coupled with developing deep interests. It's not a stressful short-term cram session for a Friday quiz. It's a lifelong swim where you're floating, exploring, and building up this compound interest of knowledge over years and years. Which brings us to section 4, evolving through persistence. But, the water isn't always smooth. Roshan says, but then teacher makes me sit on the last bench as my grades are bad. Honestly, this breaks my heart a little, but it's so incredibly common. The teacher is actively using peer comparison and public humiliation as a motivation tool. They are physically pushing a genuinely curious student to the margins of the classroom, all because he didn't perfectly replicate the syllabus. Well, Mama steps in with an incredibly powerful rebuttal. She says, never let a teacher or anyone tell you who you are and what you are capable of. Comparing to others does not work. She essentially instructs Roshan to constantly evolve internally on his own timeline. She's flat out rejecting that completely flawed idea that making someone feel inferior compared to their peers will somehow magically inspire them to try harder. It doesn't. It just builds resentment. It certainly doesn't build expertise. To really hammer her point home, Mama uses her own kind of hilarious real-life cooking journey. When she started out, she burned literally everything, just absolute failure across the board. But she persisted until she reached basic competency. Then she pushed her boundaries further, baking this infamously hard, sugarless almond flour cake that was honestly incredibly difficult to eat. But totally undeterred by that rock-hard cake, she bravely announces she is inventing a brand new carrot cake today. She's showing Roshan firsthand that failure isn't final, it's just data. Now, Roshan assumes that Papa only called that terrible almond cake very nice just to avoid getting into an argument. But Mama clarifies a really beautiful dynamic happening behind the scenes. True encouragement fuels persistence. See, Papa wasn't grading the cake. He was grading the effort. He was actively providing the essential, safe environment she desperately needed to keep trying, keep failing, and eventually reach that triumphant carrot cake stage. Let's move to our final part. Section 5, Mastery Without a Guide. Right here, Roshan has this brilliant aha moment. He suddenly realizes his mother is perfecting her craft even when there is no coach around to supervise. Think about it. There is no teacher grading her cake. There's no swimming coach telling her how to stir the batter. She is doing it entirely because her deep interest has taken over, and she is completely self-guiding her own evolution. And that leads directly to Mama's final, profoundly true thesis. All inventions and discoveries happen when there is no one to guide, and the individual with deep expertise is determined. When you rely solely on syllabus replication, well, you're only ever going to go exactly as far as your guide has gone. But when you build deep expertise fueled by genuine curiosity, that's when you reach the edge of the map. That is where true innovation actually happens. That is exactly where you discover something entirely new. So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with one final, pretty provocative thought. What deep interest will you master when no one is there to guide you? Are you going to let a bad grade or getting assigned to the back bench stop you from floating? I challenge you today to find your very own carrot cake. Pursue that deep curiosity way beyond the constraints of grades, beyond the fear of comparison, and just see what you can invent. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep feeding that curiosity, and I will catch you next time.